Welcome and thank you for your continuing support. My name is Mucho Belinda. Today's session will center around one pertinent question, and the question is, how do culture differences, level of education, and the value of respecting authority affect legal representation in the United States? So stay tuned and be ready to learn some cool stuff. Our main question here is, how are refugees and immigrants supposed to become law-abiding citizens if they do not know the law? And if there is nobody in the community or there is no resource in the community helping them learn and understand the law of the land, how are they supposed to become law-abiding citizens? And what is even interesting is that when these people do something that's against the law, there's no exemption for them. The law is applied the same way it would to somebody who knows the law and understands the language of the court. In this, I do not see fairness, and this is why I decided to talk about this topic, because it's something that I see every day. It's something that I encounter in my work on a regular basis. I see people who are frustrated because they do not understand why they are being punished. They do not understand why their liberties and freedoms are being restricted. One may say that this is why we have legal representation, to help people who are in this kind of situation. Yes, it makes sense. But legal representation does not solve the problem either, because it comes with its own challenges. For instance, what happens when the attorney and the client do not speak the same language? You may say that's why we have interpreters. Yes, that too is a solution, but it also comes with its own challenges. I talked about this in one of the videos that I produced a while ago. The title of the video is Unequal Equality. What happens when they do not come from the same culture? What happens when their level of education is not compatible? One is educated and the other one is not. How are they supposed to solve those problems? The goal of this topic is so that we can have equal access to justice. We want everyone, regardless of their cultural background, regardless of their level of education, to feel like they have equal access to justice. And when we have this equal access to justice, it will lead us to have a more just and equitable society in which nobody is left behind because of their level of education or their cultural background, where everybody feels as an integral part of the society. How do cultural differences affect legal representation? When the attorney does not understand the communication style of his client, when he does not understand the method of conflict resolution of the client, and when the attorney does not understand the language of the client, of course, there will be issues in understanding each other. For example, in many societies, people do not communicate directly. They do not say what they want to say directly. They have to go around and cover whatever they want to say because they don't want to offend the other people who are on the receiving end. So rather than telling you, oh, you look shabby today, they will say, I saw somebody who was dressed like this and that. And in the end, you will understand that they were telling you that you didn't look your best today. But someone who comes from a society that communicates directly, they'll tell you look shabby today, period. Now, if your client comes from a culture that does not communicate directly, they will be offended. They will think that you have something against them. Also, people solve conflicts differently in different places around the world. Some people like to involve the community when resolving conflicts. In other places, if you have a conflict, you solve it with the person you involved with. You don't need to go consult somebody else in order to make a decision. You as an attorney, you have somebody in front of you or your client, you ask them a question for something that you need right now, and they tell you, oh, I'll tell you next week or tomorrow. If you are in that situation as an attorney, you will think that this individual is not interested in resolving their case. But it's because they want to go consult the community. They want to hear their perspective. And then they'll come to you and tell you their decision. If you're not familiar with that, it'll be an issue. Another element and this is very important, is the language. What do you do when you don't speak the same language with your client? And this is where it becomes tricky. And sometimes your client may speak a little bit of your language. In this case, may speak a little bit of English. And so you start communicating with them. You're telling them whatever your idea or your thought, or you give them your counsel. But you don't understand that they are not fully understanding what you're telling them because their language skills are limited. So you tell them something, they say yes, they didn't understand, but to you, you say, oh, they agreed, this is what they want, when in reality, they want something different. So these are things that complicates legal representation as far as cultural differences. One communicates directly, the other one communicates indirectly. One solves problems formally, and the other one is more informal. Somebody else likes to engage the community, and the other person wants to resolve things individually. And you can see how that will create issues. And I see all these challenges every day I'm in court. But it's not my job to tell attorneys what to do, how to deal with their clients. And it's not my job to tell clients how to respond to their attorneys. This is why we are having this discussion here. This is my way of trying to help both sides resolve the issues. Now, the second element is how does the level of education affect legal representation? Does it have an impact? Of course. Level of education is very important as far as a legal representation is concerned. Because as an attorney, you want your client to participate in the decision making, in strategizing on how to proceed with the case. You want their input. You want them present because, after all, it's their case. It's not about the attorney. It's about the client. So if the client does not fully understand what is going on, then everything the attorney is doing may be useless. Even if the client ends up winning, it's still not a good case because the person who was involved in the case did not fully understand what was happening. It was all about the attorney. The level of education will impact legal representation when the individual is not able to understand complex legal vocabulary. You tell them this, they don't understand, and that will be a hindrance. You cannot move forward if they're not understanding what you're saying. At the same time, if they're not highly educated, they may not understand their rights, and therefore will not be able to advocate for themselves. They will not be able to voice their opinions, and that will become an issue as far as legal representation is concerned. What about the value of respect for authority? How does that affect legal representation? When you have a client that comes from a culture like that, they will not be able to confront authority, even when they are right. Even when they know that their opinion is correct, they will still not be able to confront the person in authority. Because in their culture, that's not acceptable. You do not contradict somebody in authority. You do not confront somebody in authority. When they say something, you accept it. That's what it is. In order to save face, in order to allow that individuals to keep their appearance or to keep their authority intact. Because once you challenge them, you're lowering them, you're bringing them to your level, and that's not acceptable. So, as an attorney, you may have a client who accepts everything you say. You ask them, what are your thoughts? They'll say, whatever you think. You are in charge. You're the boss. When they tell you something like that, what do? It's their case. Yet, they're deferring to you. They're telling you that whatever you say is what will go. That is where they come from. That's the culture they grew up around. That's what they're familiar with. And when you have cases like this, it's important for the attorney or for a court employee who's involved in this situation to be knowledgeable, to understand cultural differences, to understand how other cultures function. And once you have that understanding, you'll be able to see where these people are coming from. You'll not approach them as the abnormal. Instead, you'll try to understand, you'll ask questions to see what's truly going on so that you don't end up making decisions or taking actions without fully understanding the situation. Based on the above information, we can clearly see that cultural competence is a skill that is highly needed in the legal field. And if you are an attorney or you're a partner in a firm that represents people from other cultures, I highly recommend you taking cultural competency training so that you have the skills, you have the tools to represent your clients in a more culturally competent manner. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on this topic of cultural competence. Thank you.